of the real content this evening. So I did want to sort of jump ahead and say that this weekend there's going to be Handstock over in Hancock, New Hampshire, and I'm going to be there shooting and trying to just get some coverage of it. I've spoken a little bit with David L. Young in the past. I've been trying to get an interview with him for a while now, and that's probably mostly not happening because of me, not him. So hopefully I'll be able to get some quality, interview time in with him, because he's doing some really neat stuff for the local music scene over in Hancock. And I don't know. I think it's worth talking about. It's, I really want to try and take some time on this program here to just really cover arts, because it's something that we don't get covered enough here. It seems like it would be better. I've heard a lot of people wanting it. I'm going to see if there's a way that we can work out more in-depth coverage. We'll actually try and get some print stuff done. So that's something that I want to get there. And Sarah needs to talk to people. I need to talk to some people. We got to see what's going on. And hopefully we can get more arts coverage. But I do have a number of segments that I wanted to show you guys. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have time to do all of it this evening, just because this was a spur of the moment deal. So essentially, I'll just get right into it. When I had gone to the Democrats picnic in at Oak Park there, where they had all of the candidates come, there's some videos up that you can check out with Alejandro Arusha. He's chair of the Latino Dems caucus. But I spoke there with a state senator who had it was Senator Melanie Levesque, and she just had mentioned to me something that I hadn't heard about yet. I guess there was a fake Twitter account that was made, I guess, for the New Hampshire Dems. And I'll pull up the article right now. It was shared on WMUR, and it just kind of... So here's the article itself. And, you guys can feel free to go over to their website. This is not behind a paywall, so everybody please actually visit their site, give them the traffic. Don't just read it off my screen. I'm not going to read you this article. You can do it yourself. But it basically explains that there was a fake Twitter account identified by the New Hampshire Democratic Party that apparently was saying that it was a staffer that had left the party and they were going to divulge a whole bunch of information or something to that extent. But they used official NHDP iconography, logos, banners, everything. So it looked super legit. And it only really had 2 followers. One of them was the Hillsborough County Democrats. So that started this whole thing of, well, did the Hillsborough County Democrats create a fake account to hurt the local Dems? Which, I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, it's, I think, hard to say in the sense that there's no real good heavy proof, because it's Twitter, and what are you going to do without Twitter actually coming and getting involved, or somebody speaking up with inside knowledge with screenshots or whatever. It's all fairly conjecture. But essentially the Democrats, particularly Ray Buckley, they've accused the Hillsborough GOP of having created this fake account. And so the reason this is like more relevant, or why I want to talk about it with everybody, is that the rep that they spoke to about this is he is the chair of the Peterborough Republicans, and let's see here, his name is Chris Maidment, for any who don't sorry, I think I might have glitched out there for a second. I'm not really sure where it cut out there, but basically what we're talking about is Democrats accusing the Hillsborough Republicans of creating a fake Twitter account, impersonating them. So the Chris Maidman, who is the corresponding secretary for the Hillsborough County GOP, and he's in charge of the Peterborough Republican Committee, he sort of replied by reciting the tweet response that the Hillsborough GOP Twitter had replied to the NHDP's Twitter with, and is just saying, basically, we don't have any knowledge of anyone who perpetrated this. So let me hop back over. So we have absolutely no knowledge of who perpetrated this amateur prank, and are much more focused on informing voters of the dangerous legislation the NHDPs have passed with creating juvenile gag accounts. Okay, so here's the thing: when you're making an accusation about creating juvenile gag. Okay, so here's the thing. I mean, if you go and you look at the frequency of conservative posts, of conservative accounts for New Hampshire, both on Twitter and on Facebook, you look at the frequency at which they post, particularly if you're talking about the Hillsborough County GOP, they're really, really active, and they've seemed to really ramp it up a lot since Maiden became the corresponding secretary there. And frankly, the guy does use social media a lot. Let's see here, generally speaking, he's putting out like 7 or 8 tweets a day, consisting of retweets and stuff like that. So the guy's active, which is a whole lot more active than most of the Hillsborough County Democrats or their corresponding Twitter account are in the area. Now, it's when to reel it back to the MUR article a little bit, right? They're sort of, sorry, I'm starting to lose my train of thought. This whole thing is really complicated. I don't understand how we got here. I think the main point that I'm trying to get at is that this is sort of, you're seeing the new media tactics coming into play here, the stuff that we're more used to seeing nationally. And frankly, it's kind of like the stuff that I'm trying to do with this, where it's utilizing new media and social media to really, really push things. Now, they've sort of categorically denied their involvement, but to go back to the WMUR article, Hillsborough County GOP was one of only 2 accounts following this. Now, if they didn't have some sort of running bot attached to the account that's saying, okay, go out and follow any account that has NH or Dems in it, then the likelihood that they would just know to follow that particular Dems account as opposed to any other Democrat account, it doesn't make sense unless there was somebody inside working on that account that was aware, like, oh, hey, we just made this, it's a tip-off, right? You see them use a bunch of the hashtag walk away reference stuff, and that's really only something that you see in conservative circles. I mean, I've never really seen like walk away used internally in any actual like liberal or progressive or democratic debate. Like it's pretty well established that that's a conservative term, or sort of catchphrase. So at any rate, it really kind of leans towards like, well, maybe you did create this account, dude. There's really not a whole lot of proof on your end that you didn't create this. And I mean, I know it's really hard to disprove something. Like, I can't make you show me evidence that you didn't do something. I'm not even saying that you're a mean guy, but like, look, this is just not a good look. And if your actual response to the state news outlet is to just read a fucking tweet, like, if you can't say a little bit more about that, man, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that. Like, that's just not viable. So fine, whatever. But, the reason I bring this up is like, he's only been in this town for 2 years, and he spent a long time in Massachusetts before that, and his partner is from Virginia. So they've only been here a short amount of time, and the amount that I see them, great that you want to come and get involved in our state, but there's a whole lot of them sort of telling people how they think they should live. And I'm sorry, man, if you haven't been here, you haven't been part of our community for more than 2 years, how do you think you have any right to come in and tell us how to run our school districts without really getting involved in it? Okay, if you've got a kid coming up in the schools, great, good. I'm glad you want to get involved. That's awesome. But to go out and just assume that you might know better than people that have been in it for a really long time, that, hey, we can have our own questions about the people that we've consistently been electing to school boards, but they know the school district. That's just the bottom line. I mean, Dick Dunning was assistant principal of the middle school when I was going there. And I will say, I mean, I didn't agree with him on everything, but you know what? He cares about the kids, so I trust him. So, his partner had sort of run for this office back in February of 2019. She didn't make it. That's democracy. That's what happens. Maybe she'll run again. Maybe she'll win. Good on. Maybe she'll do great stuff for the district. I didn't even necessarily disagree with all of the talking points they had said in there. I think, generally speaking, I agree with their points on individual liberty and stuff like that. But this is personally not something that I can hop on board with. And, just to sort of give you a taste of what is, what gets talked about here. I mean, he's kind of gone out, like, he talked a lot of really just mean things about Ben Conant, who, I mean, you can like him or hate him, but I mean, I personally know Ben. I think he's all right. I like that we work together sometimes on stuff. He's always seemed pretty flexible, and if you need to work something out, you can talk to him. Back during that whole period of the candidates night, right around that whole experience of them trying to have a community discussion and with meet the candidates night, and they wanted to film it, and then there was the whole thing about, well, who can film it, who can't, and we actually, Sarah and I were down there, we did filming for that in tandem with the Ledger transcript, and they worked with us really well on that, and that was nice. And Maidman had gotten involved in that. Here's the whole mess of tweets from that period. It's a lot of like, hey, I don't know you, and we're gonna get into it right now, and I'm gonna say these things that I might not necessarily say if I was in front of you right now, or I might, but it's really oppositional. And I don't see it as being especially helpful for discourse, or it divides people more. It's not necessarily going to get people all together, especially, it's like, it's one thing if you're attacking a major media outlet, but when you start attacking like local newspapers, especially when it's the only one in the whole town, like, you got to understand, put your politics aside for a minute. This is rural New England, okay? At the end of the day, we all just set aside our fucking differences and figure this out, all right? If you were to sit down and take a minute and look at the way the vote cut on the zoning issue, for example, that had literally nothing to do with party lines. And I would make the argument that if you look at it, it breaks down to rich versus poor. And also the way information was disseminated in the community, who has access to what circles of communication, who's part of what Facebook group. It gets really, really intricate, okay? And just, it's just, attacking your local news, especially when they really do make a huge effort to not be partisan in their reporting or just give you the bet. Like, we can all have our gripes with the local paper, and I think it's really important that the town criticize them, criticize me for doing what I'm doing, criticize all journalists. Like, that's important. That's something you need to do. It's relied upon. But don't hate for no reason, and don't look for problems that don't exist. And then also, don't go out and engage in behavior that you're accusing other people of engaging in. Or, I mean, maybe not exactly the same behavior, but you're talking about, like, Maidment's out here accusing of Ben Conan of trying to control communications and decide who gets to see what and whether or not information or misinformation is spread about events. And at the same time, he's not giving full-throated responses to questions from WMUR about whether or not the Hillsborough County GOP was involved in creating a fake slanderous Democrats account, which, by the way, Senator Levesque had mentioned that they are now going to seek putting in legislation to make it a felony to do this. It's not just like you're in breach of Twitter's rules. Like, no, it's a felony to do that shit. And I think that's right on, man. Because it's akin to identity theft. Like, that's what it's like. And that's exactly the same as any other national crap that's happening. Okay? So, like, I don't know Chris Maidment. For all I know, the dude could be really nice and friendly. I haven't had the opportunity to meet him. But I am super not a fan of the way in which he's coloring the conversation of politics in our town, okay? This area has most certainly for a really long time done well with conservatives and liberals coexisting and finding a happy medium. And granted, it's yielded a lot of centrism that I'm not a huge fan of, and you'll see me arguing about that pretty incessantly through here. But at the end of the day, for me, it comes down to a wealth gap issue, and a labor issue. And I think, that's my personal take on it. If we're talking about keeping big business out of the area, I would venture to guess that Maidment agrees with me on that. Cool. But I'm not necessarily looking to agree with him all the time. I don't really agree with any of his takes that I've seen so far. I mean, I think really fantastic one that I'll pop over to right now is this one. Like, look, okay, this is how easy he wants it to be to buy a gun. Just, like, this is the type of meme this dude is sharing. Like, I don't know what to do with this, okay? I don't know. But we haven't traditionally dealt with things like this in our area this way. We don't, we don't take kindly to this kind of stuff, Be direct and say everything, It's like, the fact that he's, writing articles outright that are just straight up attacking, Ben Conan, attacking local people that are just trying to help out. They really went after Kate Kuhn in the initial round of articles back during April, and I remember reading it and thinking, like, hey, this is a private person who's just trying to do something nice for people, trying to host a discussion, and I mean, everybody's got their opinions, but like I think that was a reasonable effort on her part to just want to be able to get people to talk. I mean, it wasn't like she was trying to push only the liberal candidate. It wasn't like it was a liberals only talking night. Like, And I mean, you can go back and watch the video, man. I think Bill Taylor killed it that night. He had a really he came off really awesome. I mean, let's hop back into our video history and take a look for yourself. I think that was at any rate, I just want people to be aware of this, because he's now regularly writing for the hyper right-wing state blog Granite Grok. And I saw some mention of Monadnock Grok, which, look, I mean, I'm not gonna sync video after video of this. I'm not gonna pull a Sam Cedar with Dave Rubin or whatever, just going in on every single video. I don't need to do that shit, man. I really don't. But what I do want is I want to take a minute for everybody to just kind of be aware of this. This is going on. A lot of the same arguments could probably be made back on me for being on the left. Okay, cool. I also try to pull up as many articles from the outside as I can whenever I say anything. I try to not say a single thing that I can't cite somewhere, whether it's in a book or in a newspaper or something, I try to admit when I'm wrong. So, I will develop myself, and that's the criticism that I'll take. But also, I believe in what I say, and I research what I say. And honestly, we can debate this if we want to, man. But yeah, I want people in town to just sort of be conscious of this, okay? And just I'm not saying that I necessarily I will push for left agendas in the way that I will, in the sense that I support labor and I support arts and I support anybody who's making less than $70,000 a year, because those are the people in our economy that are really getting hurt. That's about where you see the line on people wanting to help each other versus saying, nope, you're on your own. Now that I have my wealth, I want to protect it. And we can go into that a little bit later, and there's some tweets that I have about that. I'm not just bringing this up out of nothing. There really is a reasoning to it, and there's a whole subset of information associated with that I can share at a different time. At any rate, I really wanted to do this super quick because this has kind of been bugging me all day, and I noticed that there were a bunch of I posted something really quick about it, and I noticed there were a bunch of people that responded to it. I figured, okay, this is something that people might want to hear more about. So, yeah, just basic rundown of it. This guy has, he's now working really closely with the Hillsborough County GOP and just the state GOP. He's done videos for Americans for Prosperity, which, if you know who Americans for Prosperity are, it's a Koch-funded group. So don't let their website fool you when they say they're a grassroots organization. They're not. They are totally funded by big money. And, here he is. He's, the corresponding secretary of Hillsborough GOP, chair of the Peterborough Republican Committee. This guy's really moving. He's seeking to move up locally in the state in politics. And the point that I want to make here is this is it, man. This is where the regular people have a chance to stop just folks that will consistently dismantle things that help your private interests. This is our chance to prevent them from ever having power in the first place, right? If you want to go back to Kentucky and you want to look at the way that Mitch McConnell snowed unions by the way he was lying to them when he got his very first elected position, okay? If there was a way for people to be more on top of it, if there had been, more heat surrounding that, journalistically speaking, we might not fucking have Mitch McConnell right now. Okay? And if we can just be conscious of the people in our community that are like engaging in really, really toxic politics. Like, look, I don't even care if I disagree with you, all right? Like, you can disagree with me, you run great. Like, let's have the actual competition in terms of the democratic process itself. But dude, get out of here with bad faith and like sneaky dirty tricks, okay? Like, be better than a fake Twitter account. That's all I'm trying to say. And please stop memeing about it so much, because we weren't like this before. And I know that the 495 quarter in Massachusetts around Haverhill can be like that, but you're not here anymore, man. And we don't like that kind of that brand of political rhetoric in our area. So get out of here with that crap. All right. I will say I got like a whole slew of other stuff prepped for you guys that I will have to cover on a different day. Hopefully by next week I'll be in our new location, and I'll be able to do a much longer show. It won't be limited to specific bits like this. I do have a whole slew of different segments that I want to go over with you guys. I want to talk about sort of just the state Senate race that's coming up, and the insanity in there. Let's see here. I do have a piece that'll be coming out, I think next week. I gotta check, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be next week. I did a breakdown on Dollar General and the way that Dollar General is really, really just trying to take over the state, and it's scary. And more than that, it talks about just sort of like the real down and dirty economics on how our communities lose just unbelievable amounts of money that just they go out of the state entirely and nobody ever sees it come back. And it creates this kind of vicious cycle. So that's going to be coming up this week. When that comes out, I'll try and sort of explain it all a little bit more. I'll pull up some of the references that I've made in the process. Some of the, I don't know how well it's going to be attributed when it actually comes out, if it's going to be fully linked up or not. That's on where it gets published. We'll see what happens with that. But I do, once it comes out and it's public and everything like that, I want to give you guys some follow-up on that. And maybe we'll run that as exclusive content for the patrons. Because as I owe you guys some new content and just some exclusive stuff. And I really do want to get to it, but it's definitely been a struggle in terms of time. We still both do, I do a full-time job. Sarah's totally tapped out with her work. And we saw a huge surge of patrons in August, which was awesome. We're over a quarter of the way to meeting our very first patron goal, which is going to allow to just completely cover the costs of our office that we want to move into, which allows us to do the regular live shows. And I think, it's just, I really want to be able to bring that content to everybody. I think it's necessary. I think personally, news and just politics and all that, everything that's going on is becoming way more of a conversation. And it's definitely more of a dialogue between the viewers or the readers and the people who are recording the news. There's a lot more of a breakdown of the walls between them. And I think, some of that bounces back to just sort of the opposing swing in the wake of the repeal of the FCC Fairness Doctrine back at the end of the 80s, and how, now, it took a good 30 years almost for it to finally come out in the wash, but it would seem that left media is starting to catch up with right media and maybe give some balance, but but then we've got to deal with the corporatism of, you know, news outlets like CNN and MSNBC and all that. And, you know, I think, honestly, something I'd really like to know is if, you know, for any of the viewers on this, let me know in the comments where you get your news. Locally, nationally, just in general, it would really be helpful, because if I'm going to tailor this content to our viewers, then I want to make sure that I'm actually covering stuff that you guys want to hear about. Like, I don't want to just be off on my own tangent somewhere reading something that I care about, and that's all I ever talk about. This is about you guys. It's about the viewers. It's about the town. It's about the community in the region. You know, it's about Peterborough. It's about Dublin. It's about Hancock and Greenfield, and like, you pick a place, Jaffrey. You pick a place in the Monadnock region. Pick a place in the Conval School District. I want to talk about it. And I also want to talk about the way that we as an area interact with the world around us. I think that's super important too. So yeah, if you guys don't mind, folks, just like hop down into the comments and let me know where you're getting your news. If you're from any of the places I just listed off, if you're from the Monadnock region, if you're from Conval School District, hit me up. Tell me where you're getting this stuff. If you're not getting it from major news sources, is it like just social media? You know, like, do you mostly rely on the town Facebook group to get your news? Like, I don't know what it is, but I'm super curious. So yeah, hit me up, let me know. And hey, I really want to thank you guys for coming out this evening, and just anybody that tuned in here. As I can hop over to the live stream. I don't know if anybody's. I seem to have a viewer right now, so that's pretty cool. I definitely understand that, you know, this is just getting going, and a lot of the stuff that I've put out here is like super last minute. And I get it. That I'm not gonna have viewers for these live streams if I don't tell anybody that's happening. But at the very least, you guys can catch it in the afterthought, and we can talk about it there. So at any rate, gonna be covering Handstock this weekend. I'm gonna try and get some footage of First Friday. Yeah, I gotta call through some stuff. I have some old footage that I kind of want to release to the patrons. Stuff like I got a bunch of footage from the last ballot night. I just like to put that out there. You know, people can kind of see what that whole thing was like. If you've never been at the community center for when they announced the vote, that was a really big evening, especially for Bill Taylor and his supporters. So it'd be cool to share it. And I think it's good stuff. I had a bunch of conversations with Bill Taylor before that local election. He seemed like a really solid dude through my talks with him, and I think we are certainly lucky to have him in our town. And based off of the viewings that I've had of the town meetings, he's doing a good job up there, and he's really working well with Karen and Tyler, and I'm super happy to see that that's moving along. Obviously there is the entire, town lawsuit about the lawsuit, about the, protest petition, about the protest petition, about that, like, all that crap is going on, and there's a whole bunch of nonsense wrapped up in that. And I will try and sort of, I don't have anything fully prepared right now for that, so it's going to be hard for me to just hop into like detailing the intricacies of that mess. And realistically, I'd like to kind of pull back to some of the Mark Fernald interview and actually show you guys clips from that segment, because there's some stuff that I can sort of like directly point to that makes it harder or easier to read certain things depending on where you're coming from and looking at it. So I just, giving people a taste of the stuff that we've got coming up. And so thanks everybody for tuning in. Whoever decided to show up and check this out, I can't thank y'all enough for just any support that we've got. You know, I really appreciate it. Anybody that's come through and just said anything to me, any of our supporters on Patreon, it means a lot. So thanks a bunch, you guys. Have a great evening, and we will catch you soon.